think we're live. Yeah.
We're live?
Quality.
Let's say we're live.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. So Done Right TV, our first video cast, I guess. We got the whole crew here. We're gonna go around and talk about a few things, and I just wanted to get started here, and then I'm gonna step away and let everybody else kind of talk a little bit. But just hold on one second. Hey, Sonny, do you have a stream up? Can you check and make sure that is it up? I just know that a lot of times it doesn't start out correctly.
Sonny's the tech guy here.
Yeah, yes. Sonny's the guy.
Figuring out chords and buttons and networks.
Fun things like that.
Definitely the guy. So, thank you for that. First of all, I wanted to thank everybody out there in dirt track land and in the Quad City area and even further than that, because we've reached way out of there, out of the Quad City area, and we had an absolute ball last year, so we decided that we're going to take it up another level, and
we should be live. I got a notification.
Try to do this. We're going to try to do a lot of different things here, including more of what we did last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I just wanted to thank everybody for showing up. I wanted to give a little rundown on what we've got going on here in the next few weeks. Good. So, this weekend, first of all, we are at the car show, at the Rod and Custom Auto Show in Rock Island, at the
Rock Island
Expo
yes,
Center.
Yes.
Yep. We actually have Jeremiah Hurst, brand new, super late model, open. They're going into the Lucas Oil field, not the Outlaws, but
pretend it looks like that.
But they are going up to open motor, and that car will be there. I'll have my Jeep there, and I got a couple other little surprises for everybody too.
Ooh.
We're actually partnered up this year, and this is something I'm going to get into a little bit more later on, but we've partnered with a charity this year for this month, and they are actually going to be in our booth next week, and that charity is, I do this all the time, it's a Thank the Seals Foundation, and they work with families that, one of the service members were killed in action or something like that, and so they work with 2 families, and I think they work with 3 families now. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of that. I just what I want to do this year is every month I want to have a different charity that we're working with, because we're going to be doing these video casts, and maybe we'll throw them out, on the stream or on the stream when we're doing the races, stuff like that. So, and we got some shirts coming out. I designed some shirts for next week, so we're going to have some T-shirts that we're going to sell, and if we can sell a few of them, we're going to donate the proceeds to Thank the Seals. We got another thing coming up. I think it's in June, and again, we'll be updating everybody on this stuff. But there's another dinner or something going up that we're going to donate a grill.
Ooh.
And
a grill.
The big.
You're part. You can't get it if you're part of it.
So we're going to have it all pinstriped up for them and everything.
Derek walks out.
Wait, so is this going to be in Hearst colors?
Pardon me?
Is it going to be in Hearst colors?
Look like this?
No, it's going to be the Thank the Seals logo.
Oh, okay,
on the grill, and they're going to give it to one. They're going to raffle it off for one of the families.
Nice. That's going to look really cool.
Yeah. So again, more on that. Let's see. Caged aggression. We've got another MMA fight coming up. Where'd the echo come from? Sonny? You got a bad echo. You guys hear that?
I do not.
They don't have headphones on.
Nobody's
That's true.
wearing headphones.
Like we were on the MMA.
Yeah.
Some Mike Goodwin, Caged Aggression.
Yeah, Caged Aggression. We got a 2-night event coming up. We're going to be doing pay-per-view on that, and that's going to be a good time. This one is more set up. The last one we did was not set up as far as a TV type promotion, and this one is a really, really stacked card. I talked to Mike the other day, and he's really excited about it. So I think Pat's going to be able to announce on that one too, Pat Militich. Excuse me. I also wanted to say a little. There's a really bad echo. Do you hear that? Is it just mine?
Yeah.
So, Speed Sport TV has jumped on board with us here a little bit, and they've been helping me do the pay-per-view stuff. what's nice about that is, like, you know, we just been doing this for a year. So, and last year was all test, and it's just great that at the end of the year we found out how to do the pay-per-view, and we actually now, since we've partnered up with Speed Sport, actually have 10 years experience in that business. So that takes us to the next level. That's why I'm trying to get set up and get this stuff started. We're not really ready. This
I think it looks
my
really good.
studio is a little bit done. There's just so many things that I want to do to get this thing up and running. But we want to do interviews. We're going to have different driver interviews every week. We also, you know, we would love to come out to a garage, to a shop once in a while and do a little interview, do a video. We will be set up to go live on the road, just like we do with Don't Hassle Us, We're Local, Jay and them guys who've done some wrestling events and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind if you have a special event or something like that, or if you'd like to, you know, get us out to your shop and do a little interview with your team. If you have a special message you'd like to get out, feel free to do that, and we will be happy to accommodate. February 8th, we are going to be at the Flat Track World Championships in Five Flag Center in Dubuque, and that is going to be at 7 o'clock. And February 8th, we're going to be streaming that as well. Not sure on the details on that yet. We are talking with Davenport and East Moline Speedway. So we're going to hopefully be doing weekly shows in Davenport and East Moline, and then plus the special events and stuff like that. So let's see.
That one's gonna be a fun one. That flat track.
Yeah, that should be fun. I haven't been to a place that hasn't been fun yet. I don't know, but it's just
So that's not ice.
No.
It's concrete.
concrete.
Concrete
Just
in
like
Dubuque, yep.
yeah, just like Des Moines.
I've done some of that.
So she talked about Coke syrup, I think is what they're gonna lay down and just send
That's
them
what
on
they
their
do.
way.
It makes them sticky.
Which is normal for the small arena flat tracks like that.
Yeah, but it's just gonna be fun. ATVs and dirt bikes.
It's kind of like what Kelly and I just saw at the barn. It's
Yeah.
gonna have some of that feel
It's
to
gonna
it.
be, have you ever been in the Five Flags at all?
No.
No, it's a small place. It's not very big.
Yeah.
So they're going to be whipping around there, and they're going to do, the way it sounds is they're going to do like warm-ups, heats, and then they have some finals. They only have 2 hours though, which kind of sucks.
Right.
So, which,
Very similar to the barn, I'd imagine.
yeah.
They're gonna
Yeah.
they're gonna have kart tires or flat track tires and extended axles and all that good stuff.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it
I
should
hope,
be.
I hope they get a good crowd. I really, really do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
What else you got, Kelly?
Well, it just, you know, we are going to be, it's hard right now because there's not a whole lot to do, but we're really trying to step this up to the next level. I'm going to be hiring some people. We're actually losing Sonny here in a couple months, which is going to be a real drag. He's going to be impossible to replace. So we are looking for some people. Again, it's going to be hard to get anybody out there doing anything yet because obviously it's still winter out there. But we will be looking maybe some camera people too, cameramen, camera people, and we're going to be getting new equipment and stuff like that. So we're going to be looking at sponsors. So, you know, we're just, like I said, this is our very first show. I just wanted to get one done, so we had one done. We're going to grow from it each and every time. And as far as the racing and stuff, I plan on having live video feeds. So we're not just going to show up and stream the race. We're going to bring a couple different TV setups that we can put by the beer gardens or by the grill area or whatever, and maybe even in the pits. So we got a couple live streams going at one time while we're streaming the race. So people that go to the bathroom or go get a burger or whatever will be able to still enjoy the race. I know East Moline is trying to put a couple permanent TVs in underneath the stands, and that's what we're after here. We're not trying to get people to not come to the race. We're actually trying to get more people to come to the race and to get it out there. Because if you don't know, I mean, I've only been involved in this in about 3 years, and I grew up by Chicago, and it was asphalt. So the dirt to me, I was hooked as soon as I went, man. I was saying on the ESPN radio, man, if you haven't been, you should go, because I don't know, it's just the smell, the dirt, it's just all,
I think all of us sitting here agree with that.
Oh yeah, there's
nothing-
pretty hard for anyone to say no to that.
It's so not like NASCAR. I hear that all the time. It's like
Right.
NASCAR, and I'm like,
It's not even close.
it's not even close, man. The setup on these cars is 10 times. It's just
You
so
don't have to
much
deal with
different.
Kyle Busch.
So much different.
Well,
than,
the thing about what's them.
Hey, I'm just saying.
The thing people don't realize about dirt is the track changes through the night. The track is not
Absolutely.
the same from when you get there till the last car exits off the track. It's constantly changing, which puts up such huge challenges for the drivers. And
It's my favorite game.
yeah, it's intense. And like
You're not
someone
good at it, but it's your favorite game.
Right, we're getting there.
someone that did really well in the games
you,
is
Kyle.
might not do really well in the features at all. And it's just
You gotta win a lot of hot laps before you can ever win a feature.
What else you got, Kelly? Got some more for us?
That's about it, guys. Go ahead and jump in there. There's more. I'll just fill in. Go ahead and
Oh yeah, there's gonna be tons more.
Let Rob take it.
There's all
Yeah,
kinds
so
of stuff.
Rob, Mr. Rob, he's the announcer extraordinaire. We kind of roped him into coming and hanging out with us at
Oh,
the
he
Fall
wanted
Bash.
to.
Well, yeah, but still, it was a lot better because it wasn't just me up there, and it helped out a lot. So, Rob, talk to us a little bit about your history, what you've, where you kind of come out of, and how you got into racing yourself, and how you got into this to be sitting in this room with us tonight.
Rob's a historian.
You want me to think 52 years ago?
Take us back like 30.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I did go to my first race when I was 5.5, and if you talk to my wife or somebody, that's probably only 2 years ago. But no, 5.5. I was out here at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds Friday night, and before they made us quit running at 10:30 because.
Shots fired.
Eventually in this podcast of motorsports, I think we'll dive into the Davenport and community and
Right.
racetracks. Now's not the time.
No,
we'll
no.
get there. We will get there.
But anyway, I was born and raised here. I was around here till 1986. Headed out west. I was out in Nevada, California, Arizona area, and then moved to Indiana in 1995, and very heavily involved. Many racetracks, many series. There, promoting, announcing, all that. Ended up in Florida for 2 years, and moved back here in 2018. So right back home, and tried to pick up right where we left off. But the sport has changed, of course, all those years. I really enjoy if people. I'm going to give a plug out to one of our buddies, Doug Hack, flagman extraordinary. If you don't follow him on Facebook, you ought to get him as a friend and take a look at some of the photos
He's one of my favorite guys.
that he's put up here recently.
photos lately.
Yeah.
He's
And in
also a historian of dirt track, and there's an appreciation.
yeah.
for
Very
that.
very much. He and his dad and his entire family, of course.
I'm sure we'll find Doug Hack with a microphone in a studio
Oh, I think so.
in
I think,
2020.
yeah.
We need to get him in here.
At some point. And
just
so-
to get some pictures on the wall, because that's what's been as nuts as his. Basically, it's like Jacob. If it's like in 50 years, if you started posting your pictures like of what you did, because I know did he take? How did he come? Do you know how he got that collection or?
A little bit of everything. He took a lot of photos. I mean, he used to set up at the trade shows and things like that to sell his
For
photos.
photography? Okay.
Yeah. And so a lot of those photos are his. A lot of them his family took before that, and he's in his 60s, so he's been going to racing a lot longer than all of us have, and his family's been heavily involved. So that's just one, obviously a passion like it is for us. But the racing around here, of course, just last year was just my second full season back since I moved back here, and it's already changing, going into the third year. And I'm sure you guys.
Is that a good thing?
I think it is. I like the reintroduction to the open late models for one thing, and I know there's still going to be the IMCA late models. The IMCA is going to have more of they're bringing back the modifieds more, put the modifieds forefront.
Yeah.
Maybe even down the road, and I've talked to nobody about this, but just looking at it, maybe
Except for the podcast. You can throw it down the podcast. Tell anybody before this.
fading out the late models more and putting the modifieds forefront, maybe bringing back the old national series like they used to have in the mid 80s up into the early 90s.
Was that like the Busch Light,
that kind of thing? Well,
Budweiser series?
Well, actually, that was NASCAR.
Yeah, that was a NASCAR series they had.
Yeah.
Backing.
But IMCA, they used to have the modifieds run for their weekly points, but they also had a national series that went 30, 40, 50, 60 different tracks.
Of all the racing you've been involved in, What is your favorite? I mean, you got to dial it into like class, possibly even track. What is it? Is it modifieds for you? Is it sprint cars?
Oh no, it's late models. Dirt
It's
late models.
hands down.
Absolutely,
Hands
yeah.
down. And a favorite series of late models? Even through the years, like Have a Tampa counts in that.
Right, right.
That slew of series we've seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And even though with all the Have Tampa, NDRA was still, couldn't even drive yet for the most part, but
I'm sure I've heard of that one.
yeah, NDRA, I went to a couple races, Have Tampa, a couple races. I think my favorite overall is used to be UMP, now Dirt Car Summer Nationals, runs June and July. So this year it's going to be 24 races in 25 days or something like that.
Jeez.
A fact about that Have a Tampa, because I kind of grew up with the Have a Tampa, was kind of the big name. If I might be mistaken, but Bipster and I ran into one of the sports team's owners around here.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's a local guy now.
He was telling us
Yeah.
that he was part of the growth of Have a Tampa and the start of Have a Tampa, and when it sold, he was the one that had built some value. He might even be listening because I'm pretty sure he's one of Kelly's buddies.
Yeah. Yeah, he's owner of the Steam Wheelers.
Steamwheelers owner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
great.
yeah.
So
Does
the
that
guy
put
from-
that together then?
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of puts that all, and I think that's what's, you were talking about how with IMCA kind of, and it was,
last year was a lot of people had a lot of things to say. People always have things
We'll
to say.
also
dive into IMCA. later this year.
not too much because we're all somewhat affiliated. We don't want to get the boot in the foot, but
I'm not shooting myself.
Jacob just slowly walks off. Like, Jacob's like, I don't know what y'all talking about. No, but I think that's really is an important thing because as some of these bigger open late model series are beginning to develop, even this year where we're seeing like the Malvern Bank series where they've kind of combined Nebraska and Iowa racing into this East-West series. I think you're gonna see. Like I think modifieds are going to become the next premier class, and we're kind of seeing the writing on the wall. I mean, they just had the big, down in Arizona, it was modifieds were a lot of the big, were like the talk of the town
For IMCA.
IMCA, down there. So that's kind of it'd be interesting. I mean, obviously for Derek, that works well for you.
Well, more cars or more winning?
Cars. We'll start with cars for now. Winning will come in time. The 2020 is going to be.
Well, the history of IMCA, if you look back, it was big cars, stock cars, and sprint cars. That was the history of IMCA.
Yeah.
And then when that died down, then in the early 80s, that's when Keith Knack, who was owner and publisher of Hawkeye Racing News at that time, bought IMCA and then reconfigured the modified. And it was a $600 car. You could build it in the back of in your backyard. Put a $400 motor in it and go racing.
And then somebody spent $800, and then somebody spent $1,000. And next thing you know, we're spending $40,000 for race cars.
$40,000 for a race car and $500 claim that nobody takes advantage of.
No one ever takes.
I think we should also dive into claims later this year.
What is the real question there is, and this is the hot subject that no one wants to talk about is when is the crate motor when a crate motor finally going to get cracked open at a track? And they're gonna find stuff because that's the talk of like.
It's already happening.
Well, yeah, but
when does it happen? When they figure it out?
When they figure out, is there
it's a theory? It's conspiracy theories.
There's there's something out there. I mean, when you go out and you see a lot of crate motors, and there's a couple crate motors that are beating all the other crate motors by a lot. You got to think. Is there something going on in this thing? Is there a certain point like what do you think is going to happen? Do you think open motor is going to come back?
I'm still a believer that the open motor comes back. And I think there's a new, everybody thinks they're onto something new. But I do think there's a change of thought process in dirt track. We've seen, on the smallest of scales, we've seen that front left tire, like climbing in the air, like 2 feet in the tire, like, dang, that guy's fast, a lot of bite, right?
We call it the Joe Bonnie setup.
Well, we don't see that fast car with that left front carried anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that left front tire has a use, and the idea is to keep it on the ground. So just a change of theories.
Yeah.
Well, that and the whole theory behind the left front tire is that if you're going to ride with that left front tire up, don't put it down. It's got to stay up all the way around the racetrack, or it's gonna stop your momentum. But and that goes back back in the days as well.
Seeing the old school street stocks, I mean, some of them still do it. Just carry that. It used to be like everybody on the track did it.
Yeah, there was no left fronts on the ground. You're like, you guys would roll out there with like a half bald street tire, and you're like, why is that? Like, it's not going to touch the track. Don't worry about this.
Right. Well, all of this is coming down into changes, and there's going to be changes all over the place, and of course the Kai's moving into year number 2 at the Davenport Speedway, or the first full year actually. They took over middle of the season last year.
Ronnie Whedon had a saying. And he said,
He was my hero, by the way.
yeah.
When 5.5 years
you
old.
may have heard him say it. He said, there'll always be racing, just not as we know it now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Well, and bring on the Petersons over at the now called the Bull Ring at the Rock Island County Fair. You know, formerly.
I just found that out today, that it's no longer QC Speedway. It's
no longer QC Speedway.
Where have you been?
The
It's been
Bull
on
Ring.
Yeah, but
Been blowing it up for weeks now.
but anyway, Sunday races they're going to run 7 classes on a regular basis.
What?
And
How many were they racing before?
4?
no, they were running 5 or 6, depending on
They're gonna do
depending on
7
the night.
classes.
They're going to do
7?
So are they going to start earlier?
Is that a
yes.
Sunday night?
They're yep Sunday night. and
Starting
they're
like 2
starting
in the
earlier.
afternoon.
I think 4:30 is
Okay.
the last I heard. And
Okay. Is that hot laps at 4:30, or is that like we're going racing at 4:30?
4:30.
Yeah.
You know, that changes racing. You had daytime racing, nighttime racing, and could be good or bad. But
Yeah.
if
It's all the same track. though.
my experience would say it's going to be more dusty because they're daytime racing.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little more dusty, but the Petersons are the ones that have done most of the work on the racetrack, even with the former promotion.
Yeah.
And so they've done it, and now they can do it. They've been able to manipulate the track their way, and they can work on it the way that they want to work on it. So you know, and you got to hand it to them. They got quite an aggressive schedule coming up. And so, looking forward to working with the Petersons over
7
it.
classes. So what is that? So we're looking. I'm trying to think in my head how we
Okay.
come up with 7. There's mini mods.
There's IMCA late models,
Okay.
IMCA modified,
Yes.
IMCA sport mods.
Yes.
They've added IMCA hobby stocks
Okay.
this year. They're still going to have the
That'll
outlaw.
be a crazy show. You can only run the top line with the hobby stock, and that's a wall. That's a wall.
They're still going to have the stock cars.
Okay.
4 cylinders
Yes.
and the mod lights.
Oh, so they're giving the mod lights a go. So I'm
Yes.
happy to see the mod lights come back. I thought they were gone, and I thought they might have been gone for a while.
Well,
Because
no, they were going to be gone last year. I think they kept. I think they brought them, or they never actually got rid of them last year.
Is that like that mini late model that
yeah,
was on
it is.
Yeah.
No, these are mini modifieds.
So it's like
okay.
mini. It's like the same concept, but just modded. They look like modifieds.
The only place I've ever
Tipton
seen
ran
them, yeah, it was in Tipton for
Fall Bash.
2019.
Fall Bash. And they ran the mini mods and the micro mods because Rob, you remember that we were announcing that race, trying to remember which was which while they were racing. I'm like, is that a mini mod or a micro mod? I can't tell.
I think they're fun to watch. I think it's a cool class. You know, if we just keep throwing cars out there that are about the same size, about the same shape, then we're just doing the same thing. So I mean, they're smaller, they're
Yeah.
cooler, and
It's definitely a change of pace, and it's another avenue into racing. You know, because instead of it just being because right now, you know, obviously your cheapest class to get into if you want to get into is 4-cylinder.
For now.
For now, and but
Even that's not cheap.
Well, no, it's not cheap. I mean, that's a whole other subject on a. for
we'll
another
get back
night.
to 4-cylinders later this year.
Yeah, later this year. We'll get a few of the guys in here and talk about it. But I mean, it's another way to get in. Because I remember when we were at the fallbacks, we were talking with one of the drivers, and he basically was saying how it's a lot of money to start, but really the motor is going to last for the motor will last for a while. Tires last, so it's like he said the maintenance isn't as much as a regular race
As long as
car.
you don't wreck it.
Yeah, as long as you don't wreck it, and that's the problem with those is once they roll, they like to do the outlaw style where they just tumble, like they just keep going and going and going and.
Well, and that's why the Petersons are coming up with an idea. Also, they're going to have a claim on the car. It's going to be a $2,500 claim. So some of these cars that were brought in. There's been a couple cars that have sat around a couple of years, and they just kind of come out and cherry pick or just run.
Oh, on the 4-cylinder side.
Yes, on the 4-cylinder. Or you got like Nick Prohl and Nick Buddy.
Yeah,
I know you're building a hobby stock, so go get him with the new IMCA hobby stock this year. But he had a heck of a season last year.
Oh yeah, he did. If Nick was out at the track, you basically were like, okay, there's Nick. And if I remember right, he bought that car.
Guy in Keokuk.
He showed up the first night in Makokata. He came out and just spanked everybody out of Makokata, and then put the car for sale. Car goes for sale. Nick buys it, runs it all season long.
Yep.
So yeah,
So
obviously
Rob,
it was a
you've
good
been
car.
around a lot of motorsports. I think you answered the late model part. You got anything else? I want to mention something. So we talked. I was talking to my dad on the way in here tonight, and he told me that there used to be a radio show, and he said about 75, maybe 78. Phil Roberts was doing it. They called it Around the Track, and Rob tells me this gentleman got 15 minutes a week.
15? No, he did it. I think it was 5 times a week. He did it Friday through Monday, and then may have been Thursday through Monday. So it wasn't on Tuesday and Wednesday.
So there was a time.
Yeah.
People sat down and had conversations about racing, and
Came on at 6 o'clock, I believe.
In the morning?
No, at night.
Oh, good. Oh.
6 o'clock.
so we're on that.
And it was like 15 minutes.
We've
And,
already surpassed that.
and of course, obviously on Monday, or Saturday through Monday, did a lot of results and that kind of thing, and then did some interviews and that kind of thing. But it was 15 minutes 5 times a week.
Sounds like Rob's going to bring us results for the season on.
Oh, I hope we get the Rob
He's so
write-ups.
good at it.
The Rob write-ups were
good at it.
like if I wasn't at a race, it was like, oh, I didn't make it to like CJ tonight. Oh, well, I'll get the Rob write-up, and it'd be like 12:30.
Good.
Boom, the steer comes, and it was like. You didn't need to go to the racetrack. I mean, you should go to the racetrack, but if you couldn't make it, it was good. So hopefully we'll see that. Speaking
That's
of,
because he works on those write-ups from the moment he hits the stage.
oh
He
yeah,
must.
He
He must
has
be
to.
writing on him while he's watching.
My computer's very dirty. I still haven't completed it.
I think all of our equipment was dirty after last season. I know a couple nights I'd get home and take the soundboard out and just be like, and it was piles of dust. I have a little mini Macoga Speedway. And Jacob's got his camera here that's still got.
So Rob's going to have a ton of history and the ins and outs of the racetrack. And being an announcer, and I found this out, and Bibster too, that it's not as easy as it looks.
No, it's not at all.
When you can put numbers and names and know the history, and if their dad raced and if their grandpa raced, that's something special you get from a racetrack announcer.
I hope
Sounds like something Kelly wants
I
to
hope
try.
just to know the number.
Right.
The whole thing with announcing is preparation. I mean, you guys do podcasts and all that. You gotta be prepared. You just don't flip the switch and go. And it's like,
we did.
Oh, you do?
Sometimes.
Have you heard Bibster talks to? A lot of times it is.
Well, from the book of Rob, 75%, at least 75% of race announcers just walk into the racetrack and announce a race. They don't do any preparation.
Yep.
They don't know anything about the race teams, anything along that line. And so that's what makes it so well. When we were doing the Fall Bash last year,
so much fun.
we had a blast, and sometimes we didn't even announce the race. We had the camera to do that
Yeah.
for us.
Thank
Those
you,
are on
AJ.
Motorsport. Those are on Done Right TV, right?
Yeah, well, those are still behind. They're still on the subscription side, so you can still go watch them on demand. It's like $10, and you get a 30-day pass. You don't have to sit there and watch 7 hours of racing right then. You have 30 days to.
Only 7?
No. I think it was like 6 and 7 were the 2 nights. That was nuts. And we're gonna be back there for the spring fling. So mark your calendars. I should know the dates. You'll see the dates pop. It's in April. Yeah, April something. That's a 2-day event, and then we'll be there in the summer for their. It's
Barry
July.
Reinhardt Memorial.
That's it. See, I knew Rob was going to save me because I totally forgot the name of it.
Is that one in July?
That's like July 31st.
Somewhere in that area.
Somewhere in July-ish. And then we'll be back, obviously, for the Fall Bash. And those are really a fun...
And we're talking about Tipton.
Yeah, Tipton. Down
Yeah.
Tipton, Iowa. Dark Side
Cedar
Promotions.
County?
Yes.
Cedar County Raceway.
Raceway.
It's a fun track, and what's fun about there
Great facility.
is it's because there's not weekly racing that happens out there. There's kind of a special. There's something special about that track. Like as a racer,
There
like
is.
Derek, you're a racer. You don't get to go there every week. So when you go there, you're set up. You're in the same boat as everyone else, where you don't. Everyone's having to really. Like throw the dice on the first night, and with the being, sometimes like a 2-night or a 3-night with the Fall Bash, you kind of as the weekend goes on, the track obviously gets more and more hurt. Really, I mean, like they work it back up, but you still
You never know what you're going to get for a racetrack.
Yeah, you never know what's
By
gonna
the
come
end of the
back.
weekend, you kind of know what to expect.
Yeah.
There's something about Tipton, and I'll relate it to the Newton Kart track in Newton, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
When you show up, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and it's just beautiful. And then you watch the sunset, and Jacob will be big on the sunset because he liked that sunset for taking pictures.
Yes, I did.
But
yes.
it sets a special place. And maybe it's because we only raced there so long. I haven't raced there much, but for myself, and we'll let Jacob tell you about the sunsets and why Tipton.
April 10th and 11th is
Oh
also the
yeah,
dates.
yeah. And actually, I didn't even start. When I was shooting in Tipton, I didn't even think about shooting the sunset until I noticed the colors, and then I noticed them mixing with the cars, and then I started shooting that back stretch, and I was starting to get really.
You'll
cool
have to go
photos.
share one of those when we're done here because those are special photos.
Watch him, he's doing it right now. Watch it happen. Yeah, so
Anybody that follows my page, what is his name? Boone? Is it Boone Larson?
yeah, Bone Larson.
Jeff Larson, yeah.
Jeff Larson.
I had one of those photos as my cover photo for the longest time. I just switched it back. I switch it all the time. So
Excellent. Hey, for racers that have tuned in, and we got some folks tuning in. We're glad to have you aboard on our very first podcast here on Done Right TV on the Facebook page anyway. And some things coming up. As Kelly talked about, the 37th annual 97X Routing Custom Auto Motorcycle and Parts Show coming up this weekend. 1 to 9 on Friday, 10 to 9 on Saturday, 10 to 3 on Sunday. over at the Quad City Expo Center. Then Sunday afternoon, all you street stock, outlaw street stock guys, there's a rules meeting for the Bull Ring Rock Island County Fair. That's going to be over at Racer's Edge in East Moline, 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. So that's a couple things going on this week.
So I've never been to the Rod and Custom Show. Is it worth it?
Yes, oh yeah,
Very
totally
much.
worth it. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool. I mean, it's everything from, there's vendors there.
We got cool motorcycles.
Then
and
there's
stuff.
cool
I enjoyed
motorcycles.
That, you know,
There's
that's outside my realm.
there's like everything, a lot of GoFast stuff is there. And
We
so
love
yeah.
that.
So it's definitely fun. Like I said, we went last year and got to kind of hang out there. That's actually where last year was at the Rod and Custom Show was where we all connected for the first time to say, hey, let's
was.
try this. So that's going to be kind of fun this weekend. So make sure to head up there. Like I said,
And
the
we-
new version of this car will be out there. This
Yeah,
is
and we
this is
have
the old
enough
one.
room. We can set up a studio there too,
We
and,
will.
and Maya and the boys will be there, so we can set up an interview. if
They
we
will
want
bring a
to.
party for sure.
With
I better remind the
Jeremiah
boys.
I heard shirts and all sorts of good times.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hang out with Kelly
Yeah,
for
I'll
a while there.
be. I think I have to
Donuts,
do
we'll
a.
have donuts.
Donuts.
You had me at donuts. I'll be.
Oh,
You
that's
guys will
good.
be long gone.
Friday
but
donuts.
I'm going to try to make my way through Sunday.
Okay, we'll
So-
still be. The car will still be there, I'm sure.
Be
Yeah,
around.
you guys won't
Like
be
this
there.
will be
but
there.
I'll make it. You guys will see photos of that.
I've got another little surprise that's going to be there too. But
Much
Oh,
bigger
we're going to
version.
leave that one in my pocket for now.
Excellent.
It has to be at least
Telling
3
me like
times
your
the size.
There's a surprise at the.
There's a
car show.
surprise.
Cool.
I like
It's a
surprises.
surprise.
I like
Surprises.
Hey, for those of you tuning in, we'll also get it to the point where we can take your questions on air and
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
kind of
I'm
thing
kind of.
next
If you
week.
guys, I mean, like I said, tonight we're kind of like flying
I'd
by
like
the
to
seat
know
of
where
our
you're
pants.
listening from.
Yeah, so if you're watching live, we got throw out where you're listening from. It's kind of fun, and then kind of tell us what track you like to visit. And we've been kind of focusing a lot on dirt track tonight because obviously it's really our first passion. But we're into a lot of other things. I do mud bogs out at the Pete Monster, so I'll be there this summer. Derek has got his hands in like 15,000 different motorsports, so you're gonna be hearing about that from junior drags to karts and the local karts, and also like stuff around the nation with Kartwise with Clausen. And so definitely we're gonna be doing that, and then we're gonna hopefully get some coverage at the drag strip too this summer. We're hoping to.
Yeah, there's a couple drag strips active. You know, Cordova's always been a big one.
Byron, Illinois.
Byron, Illinois, Tri-State, and Dubuque.
Right.
So that's a lot of drag strips so
There's a
close,
lot of
right? Like
everything. I
you
mean,
think about how close they really are.
Earlville's really
Earlville.
nice.
Yeah, Earlville's nice.
That's in the tri-state one that you were talking
That's
about.
4 drag strips, so that's pretty cool. And the granddaddy of them all, the World Series, is back in the Quad Cities and has been for a few years. I think that's somewhat been in regrowth. Like it didn't explode at first again because a lot of feelings were hurt. I
Yeah,
mean,
it really
that's
was,
harsh.
and then the people that originally started it bought back the rights to to the name, and it's also been now the weekend before Labor Day. It was always Labor Day weekend, and now they run it the weekend before Labor
There's
Day.
a lot to talk about in that motorsport.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And then that brings us into Brienne and Covell, Brindy and Brienne Covell, young girls that race junior dragsters. And then karts, like you mentioned. Newton Car Club, I think we've got something planned pretty cool for them. We're going to go do some rental karts and take some people up there. And not only do they do rental karts, but they get to be part of the show. Like they have their own hot laps, they have their own heat race, they have their own features.
So
So
what
that'd
are
be
you
a
saying?
good
Are you saying that
experience.
we're all going to rent carts and
I'm
make sure that we
saying-
get the insurance claim on them because we're wrecking them?
I think we know some of our sponsors and partners will take someone of their choice up there, and then I'd like to put our junior drag girls in a cart. And I'd love my son to be a part of that. I race mini quads in my yard, and Jay Kitzman's son would love to be a part of that. So there's plenty of people to fill carts with.
Yes, for sure.
And quad race in the Iowa series, the Weckel family running that series, as well as the Grand National Cross Country. Matt Lindell, Muscatine, I'm not sure what his plans are, but we'll catch up with him. So I am tied into a lot of motorsports, and throughout this process, I want to talk about how they actually mix.
And you also race a modified. I
do. I'm a wheelman. I'm
You're a
modified.
wheelman.
So,
yeah,
and
that'll
that's my
be-
priority in life because if I have an opportunity to race, that's where I'm
gonna
going.
be. So
That's what I'm doing.
what's your home track going to be this year?
Davenport.
Davenport,
Where do you think Davenport? Davenport also has a
It's
great
right
history. But I
there.
will tell you,
It's like right
in my
there.
opinion, okay, so between Davenport and Moline, or the Bull Ring, we'll call it, which one do you race at to become more prestigious? Because I feel like those two tracks, if you can win at those tracks, you can do really well elsewhere. Extremely competitive, a large quantity of racers close to the racetrack, so it makes a good car count. Which one has that bigger prestige?
Actually, I think it's a combination. Who ends up the best between the two tracks? right at this point. Now, back when I lived here before, it was kind of split right at the Mississippi River. The Iowa side was more IMCA type, and the Illinois side was more UMP and open type.
It was,
Isn't it still the same way?
no.
No, not really. The Bull Ring will run IMCA.
UMP is that direction though, somewhere in
Yes.
Illinois. I
You
went
get
like
like
Peoria,
Peoria,
or
yeah,
something
Peoria's the
like
line,
that, which
really.
is not that far.
No,
No.
it's not. And it's kind of like, it's weird that it's kind of just got to that point and then stopped. Well, and it doesn't help. I mean, or it doesn't. Not that it doesn't help, but you had like Freeport was running the track when they shut down. They basically, that's why when you go up to like Emacogata Speedway, half of the racers are from the Freeport area, because after that shut down, they all just basically made their way over to Macokota. But yeah, so it's kind of, that's the line. Then you get IMCA up all in our area.
So what's the difference between UMP and IMCA?
Oh,
It's basically rules.
I mean, it's something very simple that I'm aware of is your lower A arm in the front.
Okay.
Can be tubular. It doesn't have to be the
Yeah.
stock Chevelle or.
You can run better
what it
tires.
is, A-arm.
They usually have.
You can run the American Racing.
Well, that's
they're Hoosiers.
yeah, they're just a better. No, I know when I was last year when
Did you say a better Hoosier?
whatever.
A better one?
Yeah, we just like to run them. When we were talking with last year when Kenny Schrader was up racing, he raced Davenport and then Macokota and then up in Dubuque. And I was talking with his car chief after the race in Macokota, and so I asked him, because he races, he's got cars for all three, for UMP, US, or whatever the other one is.
USMTS.
Yeah, that's it. And then IMCA, and I was asking him, and he made a really good point, and I think this is something that a lot of drivers don't think about, is he goes, I asked him, like, what's your favorite series? You race all three, you guys go everywhere, and he's like, I like IMCA because they protect the racer from themselves and so they don't just let them go hog wild on spending money. Because he's talking about, he's like, yeah, our UMP car and our other car, they have like $30,000 engines in them. And then he goes, he's like, this IMCA car, it's a great motor. He's like, so he goes, and so a lot of times when people are like, man, these, like, and we don't get to run the fancy shocks, we don't get to run some of the other things that some of the other series allow, it also makes it where you don't have to be throwing, six figures to try and be winning a modified race. I mean, obviously, guys still do.
I mean, that goes for like a majority of motorsports. It's the dollar, right? There's a spend to it, right?
All the time, it's the dollar. And in fact, we just got a text and talking about the four cylinders and both and again the camaraderie that's being developed between Davenport and the Bull Ring. They're going to try to. They're going to first of all they're going to get together on the street stock rules, the outlaw street stock rules, and they're going to get together on the four-cylinder rules. Neither one of them is going to be IMCA sanctioned, but they're going to run the IMCA Sport Compact rules, and so there's a claim on the car and a motor, believe in that and that kind of thing. I'm not.
So, am I wrong to say that Davenport and East Moline are going to run a lot of the same classes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The only thing different, I don't think the Davenport's not going to run IMCA hobby stocks, and but pretty much and not the Mount Lights, but pretty much everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of exciting racing around.
Yeah, it's
for
definitely going
sure.
to be like I think
Ton of dirt tracks.
the best line I think I had heard of Iowa or this area racing is when we were at PRI, and Chris Garner, who's in kind of our contact and the guy that runs Speed Sport for us, and that's our service that we use for our pay-per-view, and they actually just launched an app. So if you want to check your app store, you can go to that and you can see a bunch of racing stuff, like kind of like Netflix for racing, is what they're running now. But he said he was talking about us, and he goes, yeah, in Iowa you're pretty lucky because you pretty much like go 50 feet in the air and point a camera somewhere and you're probably going to catch a racetrack.
Well, it's true, and then even outside of dirt track racing, there's karts, tracks, there's the Quad City Cartway. Up north, there's a track. I can't remember what that one's called.
Well, there's just 61 on.
Oh yeah,
Cartway 61.
Cartway. Well, they race out here at the fairgrounds on
On the
the.
fairgrounds on pavement, so there's a tremendous amount of go-karts, and then we already had conversation about the drag strips. There's a number of those.
Well, then even on the other side, like in my other, the other thing with like the mud box. So there's the Pete Monster,
Mud
there's
Box
Miles.
is
Then
Morrison.
you even go. So Pete Monster's Morrison, then there's Miles, Iowa, and then there's within a couple hours there's a bunch because the guys that run the mud bogs, they're running almost every weekend going. And then there's guys from around this area that'll run like out to Michigan and whatnot for some big high dollar races. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that in this area there's that many racetracks
There's even more.
Whatever. It's not just like, oh, I want to be just. You have to just be in dirt track, and so that's part of what this show is going to be about, is bringing that side of things, because there's so much of it out there, and we know that there's so many race fans, there's so many racers that haven't had an avenue to kind of get to talk about their passion. They get to go out and do it, and it's fun because, you know, as a fan, you get to see it, but you don't get to ever really talk with that driver. You know, you're up in the stands, they win the race, they, you know, thank 4 sponsors, their girlfriend and their kid, and they're excited, but you don't ever get to sit there and have a conversation with them and hear what got them into racing. And so that's one of the things we want to be able to bring, is that side of that we haven't been able, that, you know, you might not be able to hear as
I'm
much.
excited to hear from Jeremiah and
Yes.
then Kelly, get him in here and their connection with Dish. There's no doubt Jeremiah is a great driver.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he is.
So I think a lot of us drivers
He had a
aspire
fucking
to be
heart
that
attack
driver.
in his car, and I've heard some of the story. Basically, like, just stopped on the backstretch because he was like, still was racing. Not like, I mean, most guys would be like, I don't feel that good. I think something's wrong. I'm gonna pull into the pits. No, Jeremiah's like, well, hammer down.
And
So,
then
I mean,
become a national champion.
Yeah.
And for Kelly to be a part of that ride, the first year was the national
First
championship,
year on
right?
the car
So
was national champion.
kind of, I think it hooked Kelly right into dirt
yeah.
track.
Yeah, that really.
Sucker
That
him
makes,
right
that
in.
makes it a lot more fun.
Well, yeah, that really. Thank you, Jeremiah, for that, because I'm sure it would have maybe not have been as well as it was like. You know, it's pretty easy to continue into the sport and have that passion when you get to follow that national championship. And then this year, we're gonna have the Sport Mod, the Northern Sport Mod national champion. We're gonna be on Tyler Soppy's car, so that's exciting as well. So hopefully we'll hear some more from him.
Yeah,
As well.
Soppy's awesome.
Soppy, yeah.
Well, and just the stories behind both those families. I mean, Tyler and his brother and team, and where they have come from, and Jeremiah Hurst. I mean, they have such a racing background in that family that
Yeah.
it'll be a lot of fun to hear that.
Yeah, it's a lot of
those
fun. I know
stories.
we talked with them last year at the Dubuque car show, and it was hilarious because his brother's one that suckered Tyler into having a conversation with me. He's like, "You should talk to my brother," and he was like, But
They're not ones for smiling.
no, you get you get post race, and it's like, the race where Tyler went from the back to the front 2 or 3 times, and he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "I wanted to put a show on."
I'm excited for a lot of the camera work, and I've always been excited for some of the camera work on race cars. Kelly mentioned it earlier. Kelly and I went to the Battle of Barn last weekend, which, if you've not seen that kind of racing, I highly recommend it, because it's very different. But we did get some cool views with cameras. We put them in risky situations.
Like a 3-wheeler.
Wait,
Like a three-wheeler.
did the one cart flip over? Was it a cart or what?
It was a
it?
three-wheeler.
Three-wheeler that flipped over on top.
What
of
was
the
that
camera.
gentleman's name,
Dude,
Kelly?
Eddie Bergman. He's 61 years
Absolute
old.
legend.
What?
61.
61 years old, Eddie.
Yes.
And he was getting it when he rolled
What
the
a rock
three-wheeler.
star, man.
Yeah, he was getting it.
Well, okay,
What a
you
rock
guys
star.
didn't cover this quite yet, but there is another local group of grass racers around here that run with the GRR SCCA group, or the SCCA GRR group, which is
Oh,
a
yeah.
Great River, and they do autocrossing at Mount Joy and a few other places around
They
here.
still do Whiteside at the airport.
Yes, they do.
I said-
Whiteside
I know
once
they
a
did
year.
that.
That's where I first got into autocrossing. Actually, was at Whiteside. And some of those guys that run, or I think the one guy's in his 70s or 80s. He has a Fiaro, and every year the number changes with his age. And yeah, some of those guys.
There's a
racing
70-some-year-old guy that races cross-country four-wheelers.
If
What?
you
Really?
if you
Yes,
watch the
somebody
video,
out there knows his name.
If you watch the video of Eddie, you've probably seen it, but if you watch the video of Eddie flipping that 3-wheeler, the first thing he does is reaches up because he's got a GoPro on his head. I mean, before his ass hits the ground, he's like, "Where's that GoPro?" It was funny.
Was it on?
He was sitting up straight.
I want to do some research, and he's actually got quite a few videos out there. I mean, he's a flat tracker too. Well,
Yeah.
funny, I'll tell you. So I went over and I just approached him like I do most people. I'm like, "Hey, can I put a camera on your machine?"
Yeah.
And he was a little standoffish. He was like, "I don't know." So I came back with the camera later. You'd have thought he was a professional videographer. I mean, he had ideas going everywhere. So it was good. It was cool to see them excited. When I first went over there, I didn't feel the excitement. And then we had that camera on there, and I don't think he hit the wall on purpose, but
It
was
worked
cool to
out.
see.
It made
worked out pretty good.
real good footage.
I mean, if you're not crashing, you're not racing.
That's true.
You know.
But the barn's a special place. I think Kelly had a good time and be able to see some of the ridiculousness that they race when they take dirt bikes and switch off and pants on the ground. And most of you, when the guys on the dirt bikes hit the ground,
Oh, yeah.
the announcer says pants on the ground. And everybody was asking me, what pants on the ground is? I'm like, I don't know what you all are talking about. They're like, you'll see. So that was a good time. All sorts of motorsports. Bibbs is into some tractor pulling. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's kind of
so-
cool what you do for a living.
Yeah, so that kind of ties into my day job. Working up at Midwest Super Cub, we build high performance small engines, everything from single cylinder Kohlers all the way up to we're just getting into some Vanguard mud boat stuff. So yeah, it's kind of fun that the day job now involves high horsepower just at a much smaller scale. Like when we see stuff like 100 horse, we're all excited because it's out of like 45 cubic inches. But yeah, so that's a lot of fun. And we actually covered an NQS poll down in Liberty, Kentucky, and they're going to be just starting back up in a couple weeks. So you might see some more out of that, hopefully, in the next couple months, because the NQS season starts now, goes till like March, and then they take all of summer off because in the summer everyone goes outdoor polling, and then they come back inside at the end of the year. So
sounds like we're gonna have a gamut of motorsports.
Yeah, should be good. So
and Kelly will be on the move, and
I got a surprise.
You got a surprise.
We might be more doing race.
He legit looks super excited.
He's super excited. Like, he's over here just like geeking out about this. This whole night.
I want to
You know what this is going. Like I said, man, I literally drug that backpack around with me for months, and then finally I got in ESPN radio down there with Jay and Troy. And now I've probably got 15 of them out on the street. So this is a big deal to me because just, I haven't made any money yet. Yeah. But I'm having a blast, man.
It's always fun to spend money.
I'm having a blast.
It's gonna take people. It's gonna take involvement. It's going to take shares. It's going to take all of that to keep this going. Us that sit here at a table all operate a part of this partnership. Kelly, obviously, with Done Right TV, doing big things with pay-per-view and video. Rob, best announcer I know in the area.
That's true.
Rob's got a business himself, 1-800-WATER damage.
Absolutely. So 1-800. See, it's right on camera.
It's right on camera. I like how everyone, I'm looking around, everyone's wearing the right, you got your shocks on your hat, Derek.
Shocks on my hat. I'm surprised. Blake Harris got shocks on the, and I got my PRI shirt on.
You're not quite a wheel man because you should have been switching hats every 5 minutes.
Be a billboard.
Just keep changing hats.
Just wait till we start winning.
About my business, somebody actually asked me the other day, "What's your phone number?"
1-800-WATER damage.
It's in the name.
Kyle's got Bibster Promotions.
Yes.
Kyle has been doing this for quite a few years. You have a podcast. In Ginger, Bibster and Ginger.
Ginger's out there. He's coming back.
And then I hooked up with him some random way and became friends. And here we are sitting at the table. We talked about this. It just Kelly's the one who pulled the trigger on this one.
Kelly basically is like, we're starting this Monday. I'll see you guys all at my shop.
I love that attitude.
It's the start that stops most people, man. So I'm not afraid to start anything.
Most people.
I'll
like
start
that.
anything, man.
That is true.
And like I said, I don't even care. We want to do a good job, but I'm not afraid of failure one bit, man. I just get right back up.
You just fail forward.
Just keep moving forward. If you're not making mistakes, if you're not failing, then you're not pushing.
I think one of the coolest things was when you brought the Sling Studio out to my house, actually, and we were going to put it in motion, right? Because they said, you can't really put this in motion for podcasts. The distance won't work out. So we put them on mini quads, and it worked. And I'm sure those videos didn't look like much to some people, but they were exceptional to us to know that it actually worked.
I remember that. Well, I still think back to the night that we put it. It was on your car at Makokata.
Oh, we went live.
And we went live from your car. And I remember somebody, I think it was actually my wife, was like, we could hear everything you were saying because I wasn't even announced at that point. I'm like, dude, it's working! I can't believe it's working! Oh my gosh! Look how cool this is! And I was like, yeah, I didn't care. That was all summer long to get to that point and to get to that stage.
Those are really exciting moments, and I can tell you because the plan was for me to pull in the infield, right?
Yeah, and, to connect.
What was so cool is I'm sitting in this car looking up on the stands, and I can see you guys.
Yeah,
I can see you guys doing your thing, and I see this. I'm like, it's working. So that was really cool. I wish I could have taken that picture right at that moment where I'm looking through, my car up at you guys and make that work.
That was fun.
I jumped the gun one time, and I had a car in Maya's car, or a camera in Maya's car, and he pulled up into the, I don't know if he won or got second or something. I think he actually won it. But I went ahead and posted it. I downloaded it and posted it because I was busy doing other things, and I just sent it out there. And then I actually watched a little bit of it, and I'm like, oh my god! Because when the race was over, I'm like, Maya had some choice words that I'm like, okay, let's just cut this right off here, man. We
have to cut the audio.
Yeah, so I don't think it got out there because I ended up deleting it and cutting it. But,
super exciting camera moments from last year. Man, just blown away, and I'm gonna see some more of that. And
a couple of them ran over.
Yeah, we ran them over. We had them on a bus. For the night
that was so cool. We did night destruction. We should share that link after this.
Well, there'll be. If
we
you
were
it's all on YouTube.
Combines.
Shoot that this year.
Combines smashing into each other. I mean,
that
just some American nostalgia.
So
it was awesome.
About that. My mom actually had a chance to do that. My mom's no longer with us. So it was a crappy year last year. Anyway, they actually tried to get all the office ladies to do it. She declined it.
Wait, in the combines?
Yeah, in the combines. They try to get all the office
See,
ladies to
That
work.
was so hazardous.
We really want to. We've had the discussion of building a team this year, not to film, to actually be in it.
I'm out.
Don't give me the.
I'm in.
Emily's over here giving the no. She's already. Oh, she's been there. She knows. She knows.
The best race for that is the appliance race. Hands
Oh,
down.
for sure.
When they have to do...
Is it what race?
Appliance
Oh, the appliance race?
Yes. Because they have to engineer a way to keep that
I don't know if
washer.
I'd call it engineering.
It's a lot of rope and bungee cords, is what it really
Whatever.
is.
They got to be able to keep that washer on for one lap.
And
then
go over
throw-
the ramp.
The ramp's the last part.
That's
yeah,
fun.
and they have to be able to keep all three on.
So maybe we could post that link and
Yeah, we'll post
watch
that link.
some of that ridiculousness.
We'll definitely do that. Now, for those asking, we're hoping that this is going to be a weekly show. That's kind of our goal with this right now. So, probably the plan is probably you might see us next Monday. It might be because we're in that low. You'll see us for sure this weekend doing some live stuff. So make sure to stay to like all of our pages because we're probably going to be popping
Yeah,
up
we
from
didn't
all
even
over.
finish those. So Jacob over here simply modified,
Yes.
taking photos of motorsports everywhere, and he's really grown. And
With no flash.
We've been circling this for a few years now, kind of bringing and pulling this together. I'll let Jacob tell you about where he's going to be soon. And I've always asked Jacob, hey, find the different view, like do what someone else isn't doing, and I'll even steal his camera on occasion, lay on the ground, like take pictures up towards his nose. So it's happened a couple times.
You know, the funny thing is that you say that. I was going through photos today for a client, and I found that photo. I was like, I should post this up. So yeah, for the ones that don't know, my name's Jacob Hoffman. I run Simply Modified. I'm an automotive photographer. I didn't start off as being an automotive photographer. Anybody will tell you I'm one of the biggest gearheads that you'll know. I'm absolutely huge in the cars. Racing comes along with that. And a way for me to branch out was to get into photography and kind of show people what I see. And then I got invited, not last year, but the year before, to shoot Makokata, and it's just gone from there. Last year was my first full season, and you caught me off guard there. Thanks, Derek.
Oh my God.
Thanks to Nick McGrady, man, for
Yeah.
last year because
Yeah,
he's
let's do that
he
for Nick.
Yeah.
Nick opened it up for us,
Yeah.
man, at
He opened it up
Makokata and
big
Dubuque.
time for me last
And
year.
wow, thank you.
And Nick just lost
you
his
made it
father.
possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sorry for your
I
loss.
prayed that.
Yep, prayers to Nick. And I forgot that in the calendar. In fact, Nick's banquet for both Makokata
Yeah.
and Dubuque is this
Weekend.
Saturday.
So we got to.
Timber Lanes in Makokata.
It takes a different promoter to be able to open up doors and let ideas flow and then
Yeah.
and then execute them and let people execute them. And I would like to see more promoters open up a little bit. I've always had theories, which we'll crawl into, about motorsports complexes, and we can operate it.
We've talked to 2 tracks and we've got into both of them this year, so it's
And I
gotten
think,
it's
you know what
something
I
worked.
think?
Right.
I think a lot of that is to think of what we were allowed to do last year. Like us being able to go in and essentially have an open door. I mean, even from when I first met Nick, and I just did an interview with him, and he basically was like, "Hey, if you want to." If you want to be able to, come in whenever you want, just come into the come into the pit shack, sign in, you're good to go. And that was huge for me because I was trying to get into that side of racing, and to be able to have access to everything anytime I wanted was really helpful. And that was what allowed us to kind of build up this library and this network, so then when we could go to other tracks, we could go to events like the Fall Bash and say, hey, we want, actually they asked us, hey, can you guys come and do it? Which for them was a huge gamble because they had one of the bigger pay-per-view services do it in years past, and they had made
them for wanting to use local.
They had gotten big checks, so they could have easily just said, we want these guys to come back and do it because they come in and we know, versus saying, hey, it's gonna be your guys' first time, so hopefully it works out.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second as far as because there's a lot of people out there doing pay-per-view. But there's a lot of people out there that cost a big chunk of change to do the pay-per-view.
Yes.
And we don't do it that way.
Yep.
We come in and we'll give you a cut of whatever we make. Now, if we don't make anything, we obviously won't make anything, but that hasn't happened yet, and I'm sure it will. But you never know.
Everyone's, from at PRI we learned everyone's had their night that's like, yep.
Well, and I mean, you're gonna have that. Even me.
Oh, yeah.
I don't make money every Saturday night. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't.
Yep.
It's out there for you. If you want to use it, use it. If not, I can't force you to do it.
I'd like to hear more from Kelly of just that service. Like, we can go to racetracks and racetracks of all kinds and do crazy stuff, like put cameras on stuff and go live from it and tell great stories.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
you said, if I heard it right, for the fall bash, a lot of that was streamed in local bars, wasn't it?
No, not yet.
No? Okay.
No, not yet. But there's plenty of ideas out there that
There's
roll
the
around.
possibility of doing things like that. And it's all basically what we could really the big sales pitch we have is anything. We will try anything once,
Right.
you know, and we'll throw it out there and see what we can do. But yeah, I think with the fall bash and being able to come in and not say, hey, it's going to cost you guys this much money for us to roll in and do this show. Now, what's helped with that is that we've been able to, we're talking about it all night. There's so many local tracks within 2 hours of us. It makes sense for us to be able to, you know, throw the dice, drive 2 hours, shoot a race, and see what happens. You know, obviously, when we're having to go, like, if we were, it keeps us from having to go, like, 12 hours away to do a race. Not saying we wouldn't do that. We'll try anything. But at the same time, with the network that we have, we don't have to do that because we have, within that speed sport platform, there's somebody else that's in that market 12 hours away that we can say, oh, hey, we'll have them do it.
The
you know,
videos and the live stuff will be something we'll do all season.
Yeah.
I do want to get Rob's take on, because it has changed the digital world, right?
Correct.
Just give me a couple of the major impacts, not necessarily negative or positive, just changes you've seen the digital switch from 25, 30 years ago.
Well, there's both. I mean, on the positive side, first of all, when I was down in Florida for a couple of years, and the racing starts in January and moves into the speed weeks in February, and the different digital services are coming down and streaming the races and all that. Well, then it's a pay-per-view event, and the revenue is shared with the promoters.
Yep.
So I know promoters that were getting checks for $5,000-$10,000 because people up here in the frozen tundra wanted to watch some racing.
We want some racing.
In February.
And that's good for the performance.
And it was good. Well, and the promoters down there actually will live off of their speed weeks and that will pay for the rest of the season.
Like Tugfest for Leclerc.
It's like Tugfest for Leclerc. And I think, and I should know this, because when we were at PRI, when we were sitting in one of our seminars for Speed Sport, and I forgot, there's a track out in California, they do a bunch of stuff with like MAV TV, and they do a bunch of stuff that's on big TV, and the guy goes, I make money, I open the gates, if no one walks in, I still make money. And I think that's what, and being able to go to promoters and say, look, we can help you out on your gate side, because we understand it's 2020. Gate it's a struggle because everyone has a phone in their hand, and they're like, well, why would I, like, it's hard to get, to go out and I'm gonna go to a race, I'm just gonna stare at Facebook for 3 hours. So the matter of to be able to help promoters out with that and help them realize that there's a market out here, because a lot of people have seen big pay-per-view nights will end up being a big gate night the next time because of people that are local are like, man, I haven't seen that. I remember the first time I talked with you, Jacob, and you said that for years you always thought dirt track racing was a bunch of Monte Carlos just bashing into each other, and I had to explain to you that's hobby stock. But
for the ones that don't know, I don't come from a dirt track background.
Yeah.
I'm a big Formula One guy. I like WRC. I like road racing, things like that, which is why I'm into autocross down here, which is why I drive my Fiat 500 to Barth. Everything, it all circles around that.
some ridiculous tune that's a
The best way I've heard it described is from Chris from Speed Sport, and he said if you have a gay problem, you don't have an entertainment problem. You don't have a television problem. You have an entertainment problem. If you have a problem with your gate, it's not because of TV. It's because of entertainment.
Yeah, and there's been a bash on people Facebooking live and that kind of thing, but that's kind of gone by the wayside because there's no way in the world somebody's going to sit there and they're going to Facebook live every single race, 5 or 6 classes.
I will say,
and even if they do, the quality's not there.
the quality's terrible.
Quality's terrible, and the battery's not going to.
The battery's not going to last. The audio's going to be terrible. I mean, well, our very first live stream ever was Alex McGowan holding my iPhone 5. Well, we had good audio.
was great.
That's what saved it.
It was great.
But it was that. I mean, but they told it. We've come so far from that. But it taught us like, okay, this is not how you do this. There's better ways to do this. And I think as the more live streaming services and the more that's happening, I think, like Rob, I completely agree. You're going to see the little live videos of, like, especially, we always have issues whenever what internet we're using during parade laps. Parade laps kill us.
But those are all the things that you guys have overcome over time.
We've been able to overcome. But early on, it'd be like, it'd be like, oh, they're going for. Well, it'd be like, oh, there's he's like, oh, it's 4 wide, and all the internet takes because everyone else is going live. And it's a cool moment. We totally get it. And that's all the stuff that you have to be able to get through and and be able to power through those situations. But yeah, I think as the pay-per-view side becomes to become more prevalent, it's going to be able to help promoters out having a steady, this didn't cost us, overhead was nothing for this, and that's what I think is the biggest. When I've talked with tracks and they said, well, what's it going to take? And I said, it says it takes you saying yes.
Well, it's an equal proposition.
Yeah.
I've said for years you can't walk into a racetrack because there's really only one pot of gold there that's shared and take out of it and not put back in. Right? This gives an opportunity for promoters to know they're getting their 20% or whatever that cut is. So there's really no potential for loss on their end. It's only gains. Yeah. Only gains for them. Really, so there's a little bit of math to be done there to figure out where the number really is. And that's what and the math really comes down to what it costs to watch. And we've had discussions on that and we usually like to be a touch more than gate because we want to incentivize people going to watch it live. And plus, when you get the pay-per-view, like for our program, you always get 30 days on demand. It's a work in progress.
So that way you're going to get to watch the replay. You don't have to go back and try and buy it later. But we want to be able to push for people. Our goal really is to have huge gates and then people watch it later. I mean, that would be amazing for us because it helps us out. It's a revenue that's continues past that first night, as we have more people going back to watch it monthly. That really helps us out. So I mean, it's really a give and take. But I think Derek, your point is exactly right. If you're taking away from the pot, whatever you're trying to do in racing, if you're trying to bring in a special class and it's costing $2,000 to bring a class in, costing $2,000,
no turnaround on that,
and then it brings in and 10 people come special because of that class that are in the stands. That's not making money. And there's a lot of things out there that are that kind of a proposition where it's like you're taking away money. And the main issue in a lot of races have is that your local guys that are there weekly. You're basically taking out of the pot that normally would be paying them and doing that. And there's a lot of discussion on that side of things. On that, I think everyone in the room knows where we're going.
The ones that are there every week, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. The ones that are there every week are going to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to have the ones, and there are very few. In fact, I'm putting together, the stats for the Maquoketa and Dubuque banquet, and I think you can count, probably on all of our hands, the amount of racers that were there every single time the gates opened, and there wasn't that many. It was mostly in all the classes. It was pretty much single digits. There was a class or two that was double digits, but you're looking at just the demand for the dollar nowadays is ludicrous. There's so many different things to do, and with the cost of racing, and it's not the $5 to get in anymore, and the $5 off for wearing white pants in the pits
changed a lot,
and that kind of thing. So you have the Bipster was saying. Right, that's right.
Hold up, let's stop on this thought. $5 off if you wore white pants.
Male and female.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they used to have that at the dirt tracks. If you wore white pants, you'd get a $5 discount for
pits.
Can I ask a
question? Why would anybody want to wear white pants to a dirt track?
You get $5
off.
But you
and actually, they used to be
pants away, right?
You look at some of those older pictures. That was the uniform.
I remember
of the day.
that.
Oh, now it makes sense.
Right?
What I was talking about earlier. All those vintage pictures I've been seeing on Facebook.
Pants.
They're all wearing white
pants.
There's
so much to learn. Rob's here. There's gonna be so much to learn for Rob. Whether it be white pants or an old radio station.
I gotta get a pair of white pants.
Well, like Kyle was saying, I mean, the revenue streams now can be endless when it comes for promoters. I mean, it used to be where the race teams paid through the back gate, and that paid everything, and it doesn't work like that anymore.
No.
You need the concessions, and you need the front gate, and you need the sponsors, and that kind of thing. And so this is a revenue stream, the pay-per-view end of it, where it's not only a revenue stream for Done Right TV or Speed Sport or TV or whatever, but it's a revenue stream for the promoters as well.
Exactly.
And that's where it makes very much
We're supposed to ask you about wearing white pants to the World 100. Did you wear the white pants to the World 100 one time?
1995.
Wait, did you
get $5 off, or did you just wear white pants?
Actually, you got $5 off.
Bad Taco Bell that night.
Yeah. No, but it was raining cats and dogs.
Whoa!
And if you've ever been to Eldora, and you go in the pits, you gotta go down through the love tunnel. You come through on the back stretch. You gotta go down the stairs. You walk under the racetrack to get to the infield. Well, I'm walking down the stairs, and next thing I know, I'm flat on my back, going down muddy steps with my white pants on.
Should have worn the brown
Now.
And it was the first time I'd ever been at the World 100. Didn't bring another pair of pants. It was the only pair of white pants I had.
You got $5 off for white pants.
So Derek, your dad just commented that the white pants were for visibility. which actually makes sense in the pits because think about it, it's and we always talk about it every drivers meeting is like, you know, don't be a moron driving around the pits because it's hard to see. Race cars don't have lights, so if you think about a bunch of white pants walking around, you would see if people were, you know, wandering around in the lane. So I mean, I can see now why it was an issue, but now I totally get why.
He just did it for $5 though.
Yeah. Rob wanted the $5 off.
Safety involved.
Well, yeah, but see, you guys gotta remember that when I used to go to back then it was Quad City Speedway or Quad City Raceway in East Moline, and pit pass was only $15, guys. So you $5 off and $10 for the pit.
So
what is a 15 equal to today? Is it that 30 that cost us now?
25
is that a
or
fair?
30,
Is that a fair?
It's probably about right.
Okay.
Probably right.
So we get about $10 off for white pants.
Your
these
son
days.
was the one that asked that question, Aaron.
He's watching.
He's
We're
watching.
gonna have to work with a promoter this year to make that a white pants night.
We need a white pants night.
We gotta have
We
white pants
need a
night.
white pants night.
White pants night for sure. Well, yeah, definitely.
I will
so.
do it too.
I will not.
I'll bleach some bibs.
We can find you white painters, bibs.
We can.
I guarantee
That's true.
I just want to make mention that this is gonna. I just said this earlier, and I know we're all gonna agree. We need to all agree that this is gonna take a lot of people joining in and sharing and liking our pages. Done Right TV, Bibster Promotions, Get with Rob Hinckley, 1-800 Water Damage,
Yes.
Simply Modified, and myself with Varium Racing. From there, we web out. And we're going to bring that all home here. So please share, have conversations, send us messages, send us comments, because we really do want to talk about what you guys want to hear. Whether that be carts, tractor pulls, local dirt track, tech stuff, some camera stuff, some live stuff, some Sling Studios. It's endless possibilities, and we'll always bring it back to GoFast and dirt track.
There's a lot of GoFast out there. But yeah, so we're going to be this Saturday. Come see us at the Rod and Custom Show. We're probably not going to all be there at the exact same time, but throughout the day, we'll all be popping in. So if you're there, I'm sure, Kelly, you're going to be there all day.
I'll be there all day.
Yeah, so Kelly's always going to be there. We're all the
That
random.
10 to 9 shift, that is a rough one.
That's
I
a
didn't
rough
do that
one.
last year.
Yeah,
2 or 3 days.
I'm pretty sure
2 days.
It's 1 to 9 on Friday, 10 to 9 on Saturday.
Hey, yeah, I'll be there because we're not doing a game on Saturday.
Cool.
So good
And
deal.
that's the SEAL families.
Help us see.
No, the charities. Thank the SEALs.
Thank
the SEALs.
Thank the
Yeah.
SEALs.
Cool.
So that's our charity. This
They'll
month.
be there. They'll have shirts and stuff. They'll be on staff. They'll be there
Jeremiah's
Saturday,
car
Sunday.
will be
Jeremiah
there.
will be there on Saturday. So if anybody wants to meet Jeremiah, I don't know what time. I will post when we're going to be there. When he's going to be there. I do plan on having a little bit of a table and stuff set up so we could do a podcast or do an interview with Jeremiah and the team. I'd love to do that.
Yes.
And anybody else that wants to come down. I mean, if anybody else wants to
come
sit
down,
down,
hang out.
anybody wants
Yeah,
to
I'll be there.
Any other
say
racers?
any words.
Yeah, any other racers that are going to be there, pop in and say hi to us. You know, you don't have to do an interview. I understand some of us want to talk, but if you want
This
to,
is not going to throw the phone in your face.
I will totally throw a phone in your face. Yeah, talk now.
You never know. Maybe we'll just leave it live the whole time, and
I
everybody
mean,
will be on
if
there.
people want to come stand in front of a camera, I'll be all for it. Tell your story. What's your GoFast story,
What's
right?
your GoFast?
Everybody's got a story.
But yeah, so we'll be there this weekend, and then like I said, stay tuned, like all of our pages. We should be seeing eventually. We'll see like an actual podcast version, so not a video format coming up. But we're kind of still playing that, figuring out how we're going to launch that and where we want to end up going from that. But for now, it'll be up on Facebook. It's always up on YouTube, so you can go back and watch. You can share the link out. That would really help us out. So when we talk about that, huge things. You want to help us out. The easiest way to help us, it costs you nothing, is to hit that share button, share it to your page, put up like a, hey, check this out. This is really fun to listen to. Great conversation. When you see our posts about anything, hit that share button. It helps us out a ton. We see, when you run a page, you see like insights. And when you get a bunch of shares, it really helps us out. So that's like, costs nothing, takes a second, really does help.
The problem is with Facebook's algorithm as well. I mean, the more that you like and the more that you share,
Right, it's relevancy.
Yeah.
it'll show in your news feed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you don't share and you don't like people's pages, they no longer show in news feed.
With that being said, send me your invites.
Yes,
This is a
exactly.
mutual proposition. You know, come and like
Absolutely.
Varium, come and like Bibster Promotions, come and like Done Right, and share the Done Right, and share the videos, and we will return that favor so we can grow this, grow that web, right, and then bring it all back here to the table.
Yeah, we have
weekly potentially. So we need some partners and some sponsors, and I'm going to be making some phone calls and some conversations with people because there's something here. There's a lot of motorsports around here, and there's a lot of motorsports throughout the nation, and we're going to focus locally, but we'll touch on occasion and reach out and get some people in here that there's some. We just dropped so many names like the old radio show host and Jeremiah Hurst and Doug Hack.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that I want to hear from, and I know that people do too.
And our reach is going to go out so far. I mean, I'm going to be at CJ on Friday nights, and so we'll get to know some of those folks a lot better. And I was there my first year last year, but even the big old circle around, there's so much different racing and so many different race cars in that big old circle.
It's really crazy. As someone that, when I was a little kid, I used to go to racetracks with my grandpa. Yeah, I remember at Macoga Speedway, because I remember there was one night where, it was last year, the first time I was driving the Pace truck, and my grandpa was as we came to the race, and with my mom, and I remember I was driving the Pace truck, and I'm in my head thinking, man, when I was like 9 years old, if you had told me like, hey, someday you're gonna be on that track, like when they're about to race, it was really cool, but I then kind of got away from racing. I hadn't been around it for a few years, and to get back into it, and just to realize, and just to think about how many people that is their passion. That is, they go to work Monday through Friday all day long at a job that some probably are just there because on the weekend they get to go play.
Kelly talked about that on the ESPN radio today for sure. And there's so many stories just like Bibsters, and we'll keep them coming.
Yeah. So if you haven't been to a dirt track, like, for God's sakes, go. I mean, what are you waiting for?
Come watch me race, because I'll keep it exciting. They call me D-Wreck for a reason. Now, I'm not trying to wreck anything, but I'm really good at it. Like
I just called you D-Dub when I was announcing, so I never said wreck. But
I'm okay with it. I've earned it. There's some pride that goes with it. I mean, the guys that I ride quads with, they'll tell you if I thought it was boring, like if riding the trails was boring, we're going to make something happen. And it usually wound up with something broken. But not me. I was pretty good at not breaking myself. So,
hey, we just did an introductory thing tonight, and which is wonderful. I'm the results guy. I love giving results, and between now and we hit the dirt tracks or locally. There are race teams out racing all over the place, and just got done down at the FK Rod-Ins Arizona Speedway, World of Outlaws down there, and Brian Burkhofer. What a week he had driving Jason Rowan's car. He ended up 10th in points down there with a top 5, 3 top 10s, a little over $4,000. Chris Simpson finished 8th in points for the week, couple top 5s, 4 top 10s. He had 3 heat wins during the week, and he also led 20 laps during the features, and he won over $5,000. Of course, Brandon Shepard picked up the win down there. Then the Chili Bowl, we saw that. Kyle Larson, how cool was that?
Yeah.
And especially his club, that was great.
That was cool.
Yeah, his wife's getting good at that. Yep.
That was awesome.
Christopher Bell finished second. Cameron McIntosh, Logan CV, the USAC national champion, and my man Rico Abreu rounded out the top 5. Had one kind of a local driver. They call him the Kid, Colton Fisher. He's out of Mediapolis, Iowa. Okay. He finished he made it all the way up to J Feature 2. Saturday, of course, is the alphabet features. They start at O Feature, and they have 2 of each letter all the way up to the A Feature. And Colton Fisher, the kid out of Mediapolis, made it all the way to the J Feature. So hats off to him.
Hawkeye.
And you're gonna see him a lot. He's gonna run some MOA, some ASCS, and some midgets coming up.
Good deal. So yeah, that was fun. So we're gonna probably wrap things up now, because otherwise we're gonna get into another conversation. That's a whole other podcast. So
we have so many.
We have so many.
Oh, one more shout out.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Sam Halstead, late model driver out of New London, Iowa. He just joined the Neltner family. That's the old white and orange 75 that Ray Gus drove, and Gus Jr.
I've seen
and all
mention
that.
of that.
Yeah. And he was running down at Volusia Speedway Park this last weekend in the crates, and he ended up making all 3 features. They had about 40 cars there. Made all 3 features. His best feature was his best finish was 18th. Todd Cooney, our buddy out of Des Moines from IMCA ranks, second national championship a couple weeks ago. Finished 11th on Friday night. And so just hats off to them too, racing in Florida.
Rob does such a good job at that. I'm not sure if we should do it at the end or the beginning.
I think we should have probably done that at the beginning. We'll get that better. We'll get way better.
We're gonna dial all this in over time. Hang with us, please share.
We'll get us an agenda. That's all right.
Yeah, send us messages, all that good
Our
stuff.
agenda was to get the first one done.
Yeah, that was on.
Turn it on.
We've got
First
the
one's done,
Yeah, we did. All right. So for Bibster, Derek, Rob, Kelly, Jacob, everybody. Some members of the
You should go with
Sonny.
Bibster and Simply and Modified.
So it's
and
Bibster Promotions, Simply Modified, Varium, 1-800 Water Damage, and Done Right.
Done Right
Big things
TV
are Done Right.
priority.
Yes. If you need anything from satellites to home security to TVs to camera, I mean, all sorts of stuff, call Kelly up. You can go online, but you can't go into a store and say, "Hey, I have a question about something" when you're online. So come in.
call
We're in
Kelly.
a real store right now, so come in and check it out. Great showroom we have here, and a great now
Yeah,
podcast
good job,
studio.
Kelly. He
So,
tried
yeah.
to make it out like we were gonna be on a picnic table or a fold-out
This
table
is
with
really
car
Look at
chairs.
this, we got a light in the middle.
That's
Got a-
pretty neat.
They gave me a
Good
car to
job,
play with
Kelly.
all
You know how many
night.
times I tried to throw this table away?
So glad you did it.
Right, thank you, everybody.
So thank you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Have a
everyone.
great week. We'll see you Saturday.
All right. Well done.
All right.